Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to daily Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're actually going to finish the second chapter of Canto 2 with just the last verse of Canto 2. Then we'll go into chapter 7 and read texts 1 through 25. The verse today that we'll be reading in Sanskrit and purport by His Divine Grace will be 2:6:46, the last verse in Canto chapter 6. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Chana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yashoda Nanda-braja Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabiyari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Kala Sanji Shri Radhe Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Kala Sanji ki jai, Shri the Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Sartvatyam Disyam Tato Jayam Yudirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayasa abreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. By regular attendance in class on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart is almost completely destroyed, and the loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, establishes a irrevocable fact. Om Vigantimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shakshuran Mitiyam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful and obeisances unto him. Good morning. Hare Krishna. Let's turn to text 46 of chapter 2 in chapter 2 of Canto 2. And we'll read the translation, please. I'll start it. O Nard, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of Lord known as Leela avatars. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. There, chapter 6. Chapter 6, text 46, Canto 2. Just the last verse on chapter 2. And then we'll go to chapter 25, chapter 7. Then we'll go to chapter 7. Then we'll go to chapter 7. Am I speaking English? O Nard, O Nard, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnation of the Lord known as Leela avatars. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Chapter 7. So maybe you have the microphone right there. Would you mind starting us off, please? I just switched the batteries, so it should be. No? Okay, go ahead.
The form of a boar. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk.
The Prajapati first begot Suyajna in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagna begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Am I saying the name right? Suyagna? Suyagna as the Indra Deva diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu.
So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it will sometimes give us the lineage of the incarnations of Krishna. And this is because so many people will claim to be an incarnation of God. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam and scriptures give a lineage to show that, hey, this person is from this person. Oh, so what was your father's name? Oh, it was Bob. Oh, I don't remember seeing that in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry. That's clue number one, that you're not an incarnation of God when your dad's name is Bob, maybe. Okay, 3, go to 3, please.
The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahmana Kardama and his wife Devahuti, along with 9 other women or sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which, in that very lifetime, she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes, and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila.
So we'll learn more about Kapila in Canto 3, but his mother inquires from him about the absolute truth, and Lord Kapila goes ahead and teaches his mom Krishna consciousness. Text 4, please.
The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son. Dattatreya, Datta, the son of Atri, and by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadas, Hayas, etc., became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings.
Text 5.
To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and And the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 Sanas: Sanaka, Sanatan Kumara, Sanandana, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 Sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages.
So it says right here, to create different planets, I had to undergo austerity. Who's speaking? Lord Brahma, right? And so his sons, the 4 Kumars, it said that the 4 Kumars were completely liberated and being nothing, having no desire, they would walk around, and by smelling the tulsi leaf that was offered to Krishna, the Kumaras at once were determined to hear about Krishna. Text 5, please. 6, thank you.
To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin forms of Narayan and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma, and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead.
So Narayan took a vow to be brahmachari for his whole entire life. And the demigods didn't like this. They were envious of it. So they decided, well, if he's going to try to be brahmachari all life, meaning a celibate his whole entire life, let's send some beautiful women to distract him. And to their surprise, when they came, they saw that emanating from him was more beautiful women than them. And that was no distraction to them. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that, what's his example? Oh, his examples of a person who makes, like a baker. A baker who's making so many nice dishes and stuff like that. They're not distracted by it's like what they do. It's just, they just make nice, baked goods and stuff. And so it's no distraction to them. So similarly, Krishna, or in Narayan, isn't distracted by beauty, because beauty is just emanating from him. It's like no big deal. 7, please.
Great stalwarts like Lord Shiva can, by their wrathful glances, overcome lust and vanquish him. Yet they cannot be free from the overwhelming effects of their own wrath. Such wrath can never enter into the heart of him, the Lord, who is above all this. So how can lust take shelter in his mind?
Text 8. Being insulted by sharp words spoken by the co-wife of the king, even in his presence, Prince Duruva, thought only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest, and the Lord, being satisfied by his prayers, awarded him the Duruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages, both upward and downward.
Text 9. Marjvena went astray from the path of righteousness, and the Brahmanas chastised him by the thunderbolt curse. By this King Vena was burnt with his good deeds and opulence, and was en route to hell. The Lord, by his causeless mercy, descended as his son, by the name of Prithu, delivered the condemned King Vena from hell, and exploited the earth by drawing all kinds of crops as produce.
The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabhadev. He performed materialistic yoga to equivalence the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied.
Just a comment. I think Rishabdev is kind of the Jainism. It originally comes from Rishabdev. This way.
Say that again?
Jainism religion,
Mhm.
it comes from Rishabdev originally. Crazy.
Interesting.
Text 11. The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices, and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the supersoul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils.
At the end of the millennium, there would be Vaivasvata Manu, the name of Satyavrata, would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas.
So we've heard now an incarnation of Krishna as a boar, and now as a fish.
And a horse.
Huh?
And a horse.
And a horse. So is Krishna, he's very liberal, that he won't just appear as a person, he'll also appear as different incarnations in animals. It's pretty amazing, huh? Go ahead, please.
The primeval Lord then assumed the tortoise
Oh my gosh.
incarnation in order to serve as a resting place, pivot, for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation.
And now a turtle.
The personality of God had assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadeva in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyasakipu, who challenged the Lord with the club in his hand. By placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger and showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted.
The personality of Godhead, after hearing the elephant's plea, felt that the elephant needed his immediate help, for he was in great distress. Thus at once the Lord appeared there on the wings of the king of birds, Garuda, fully equipped with his weapon, the wheel, Chakra. With the wheel he cut to pieces the mouth of the crocodile to save the elephant, and he delivered the elephant by lifting him by his trunk.
So it's interesting here that it's explaining that there's a king of each of the species. There's the king of the elephants, and then there's a king of the crocodiles, and then there's a king of the birds. Pretty interesting that there's the alpha in each species. Go ahead, please.
The Lord, although transcendental to all material modes, still surpassed all the qualities of the sons of Aditi, known as the Adityas. The Lord appeared as the youngest son of Aditi, and because he surpassed all the planets of the universe, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. On the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Bali Maharaj. He asked simply because, without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possession.
Bali Maharaj, who put on his head the water washed from the lotus feet of the Lord, did not think of anything besides his promise, in spite of being forbidden by his spiritual master. The king dedicated his own personal body to fulfill the measurement of the Lord's 3rd step. For such a personality, even the kingdom of heaven, which he conquered by his strength,
was of no value.
This is a pretty common story you'll hear amongst devotees. It shows the great surrender by Bali Maharaj. He's even being told by his spiritual master, don't do this. This is Krishna, and if you make an agreement with him, he will take everything. And Bali says, well, if it's Krishna, then if he's the supreme person, then, what could be bad about that? And so he gives Krishna what he wants. It's a very beautiful, beautiful story. Next, please.
O Narada, you were taught about the science of God and his transcendental loving service by the personality of Godhead in his incarnation of Hamsavatara. He was very much pleased with you due to your intense proportion of devotional service. He also explained unto you lucidly the full science of devotional service, which is especially understandable by persons who are souls surrendered unto Lord Vasudev, the personality of Godhead.
You can really see that when they're talking, they're really not only talking to each other for the benefit, but they're speaking for the benefit of everyone. Because Brahma right here is literally reminding Narad of something he already did. And speaking it, hey, you did this, remember? Of course Narad remembers what he did. But we get a chance to see, okay, what is the relationship, or what are the incarnations of Krishna? And how did he, in this one, was with Narad Muni. Okay, next one, please.
As the incarnation of Manu, the Lord became the descendant of the Manu dynasty and ruled over the miscreant kingly order, subduing them by his powerful will weapon, undeterred in all circumstances. His rule was characterized by his glorious fame, which spread over the three lokas, and above them to the planetary system of Satyaloka, the topmost in the universe.
The Lord in his incarnation as Dhanvantari very quickly cures the diseases of the ever-diseased living entities, simply by his fame personified, and only because of him do the demigods achieve long lives. Thus the personality of Godhead becomes ever glorified. He also exacted a share from the sacrifices, and it was he only who inaugurated the medical science, or the knowledge of medicine in the universe.
When the ruling administrators, who are known as the Kshatriyas, turn astray from the path of the absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell, the Lord, in his incarnation as the sage Parasurama, uprooted those unwanted kings, who appeared as the thorns of the earth. Thus he thrice 7 times uprooted the Kshatriyas with his keenly sharpened chopper.
Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the Lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dashratha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravana, who was very materially powerful, with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished.
The personality of Godhead, Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant intimate friend, Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics, like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord.
When Ravana was engaged in the battle, the trunk of the elephant which carried the king of heaven, Indra, broke in pieces, having collided with the chest of Ravana, and the scattered broken parts illuminated all directions. Ravana therefore felt proud of his prowess and began to loiter in the midst of the fighting soldiers, thinking himself the conqueror of all directions. But his laughter, overtaken by joy, along with his very air of life, suddenly ceased with the tingling sound of the bow of Ramachandra, the personality of Godhead.
Probably one of the most famous pastimes of Krishna, the Ramayan. So many different cultures you can see in the Ramayan. Okay, let's go back to chapter 6, 46. Is that what it is? Last verse in, yes, 46. And we will do the Sanskrit. Brahmanyanto yan risha amantyanti Lila vatran purashasha bhumanaha Api atma kranakasha soshashan Anna kramayeshe tamiman supeshan Pradyantyanto yan risha amantyanti Lila vantaran purushasya bhumyanaha Api atma karnakasha shashoshan Anu kremesha ta iman supeshan. Somebody like to chant, please. Radhyantyanto yan rishayamananti Lila vataran purushasya bonona Napiyatma kanakasha shoshashan Anu kremesha taiman supeshan Prabho yanto yan risha amananti Lila vatran purushasya bhumbunaha Apiyatam karnakasya soshan Anu kremesha taniman supeshan Prabhayanyato yan risha amananti Iha bataram purushasya bhuvanaha Piyatam kanakasya shoshan Anu kremesha tayaman supeshan Risha amananti Lila vatana purushesha bununa Apiyatam karnakashaya soshan Anu kremesha taniman supeshan. So we can go to the word by word and we'll read it all together. Pradyanyantya, chiefly, yan, all those, reshe, O Nard, amananti, worship, lila, pastimes, avataran, incarnations, parushaya, of the personality of Godhead, bhumanaha, the supreme, apitam, in order to be relished by you, karna, ears, kashaha, O soshan, O vibrates, anukramesha, shall state one after another, te, they, iman, as they are in my heart, supe sham, all pleasing to hear. O Nard, now shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord known as Leela avatars. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished, therefore they are in my heart. Please repeat, O Nard, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, known as Leela avatars. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Can somebody read the purport, please?
As it was said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 158, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Prajami is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as he comes and manifests himself here on the surface of the material planets. Every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages, and as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by the radio stations. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all of those messages. The cause of such satisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. This transcendental literature is especially prepared by Srila Vyasadeva to give the utmost satisfaction to the people in general by narration of the activities of the Lord, as instructed by Sri Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva. Such activities of the Lord are principally of two varieties. One concerns the mundane manifestation of the material creative force, and the other deals with his pastimes in the form of different incarnations in terms of the time and place. There are innumerable incarnations of the Lord, like the waves of the river flowing constantly in and out. Less intelligent persons take more interest in the creative forces of the Lord and material world, and being disconnected from the relationship with the Lord, they put forward many theories of the creation in the name of scientific research. The devotees of the Lord, however, know well how the creative forces work concurrently by the action and reaction of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore, they take more interest in the transcendental activities of the Lord as he incarnates himself on the surface of the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam is the history of such activities of the Lord, and people who take interest in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam clear their hearts of the accumulated mundane filth. There are 1,001 rash literatures on the market, but one has taken interest in Srimad Bhagavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. Sri Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the second canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Purusa Sukta confirmed.
Naturally, we love stories. We want to hear stories. We want to hear adventures. We want to hear drama. We want to hear so many different things. And so in this world, we create these movies. And you'll see that people really identify with them in these ways that they like, their stories become part of their life. You got people that are Star Wars people. They love Star Wars. They want, right? And as a matter of fact, you'll get people who identify with one side or the other, right? I'm on the Imperial side. I don't think that's it. Huh? The Empire. I'm on the Empire side. No, I'm the Jedi side and stuff. It's really natural. What's that? What's that?
The Republic.
The Republic. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. You'll see, like in Marvel, they have all these different superheroes and have such an intricate understand. Like there's something you can look up and look at how you can read or watch the movies and the shows in order, so that you get an order of everything that's going with the superheroes and stuff. And so when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we're going to start to hear some transcendental stories and some transcendental movies. And the difficulty about it is that when we read, at first we read this chapter, you might not find the attraction there. At least for most of it, I don't. However, when there's a story that I know, like for instance, the story of Bali Maharaj, I get a little happy. I get a little bit, excited about it. Oh, I know that story. I know Bali Maharaj. I know about his guru doing this and stuff. So my encouragement is that this Srimad Bhagavatam, as we continue through it, are going to go in deeper into these stories. And you're going to start to connect with them more. And you're going to start to see the different sides, and the characters are going to develop. And you'll start seeing Srimad Bhagavatam in a whole different light. And if we dive deep enough into Srimad Bhagavatam, we can actually start to see these situations in our own life. Something will be happening, some kind of drama or this or that will happen, and we say, oh, I remember in Srimad Bhagavatam that this happened, and this is what the devotee did to counteract that, or they did to move themselves through the situation and come closer to Krishna. So it's actually pretty late, 8:22. So what I'm going to do, instead of talking more, I'm going to open it up for questions, comments, thoughts, and then we'll finish up the class, or finish up the time with that discussion. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
I guess if you're coming from a perspective that's like very unfamiliar with all this, there might be a blockage when you hear these things, in that this sounds really silly, this sounds really fantastic, this sounds like someone was just like, I don't know, they were spaced out and they made up something. It's like, oh, there's a big flying boar that saves the earth, and there's this swan, and the horse that breathes has the Vedas coming out of his nostrils. And you can kind of put a blockage between actually receiving these pastimes just from your conditioning that this is fantasy. So I'm kind of wondering, how can someone counteract that? Because even if you've been in the movement a long time, still it can kind of come up that, I don't know, you find it to be silly, and you don't really receive it with the proper mood.
Well, I'll continue with the movie explanation. Like, there's this movie called Transformers, and they're robots that are living entities, and they're giant, and they have these, and this is so far out there, right? But we still love it. We still enjoy the there you go. There's another thing. Are you an Autobot, or are you whatever? Anyways, But the thing is that, so you can see that naturally we're into far out stories. We want really cool, interesting, wham, bam, cool, amazing, amazing things to happen. It's natural in our hearts. However, the thing is because we don't connect with these stories and we don't understand them. Yes, at first it's kind of tough, and we're desensitized by, understanding, by our desire to hear about, in this world's superheroes. So the thing that helps us to move over to the transcendental pastimes of Krishna is we start hearing about them, and we start to see the amazingness of the story. And at first, maybe, yes, we can't comprehend that that's really happening. But over time, what happens by chanting Hare Krishna and reading the pastimes, our heart starts to change. We start to become attracted to those pastimes. We start to identify with those things in our life. And we start to see it not just in a mundane way of the movies of now. We start to see that it's actually creating a relationship with Krishna in our heart and through our lives. And so that's the difference between, what happens in the devotee, is at first it is very difficult to understand that these things are happening. But over time, trust starts to develop because we start to see that the process works. And then when we see the process works, we say that our heart's changing, that we're starting to feel a little bit of love for Krishna, we're starting to feel some love for Krishna, and then we start to say, well, maybe this is real. Maybe Krishna is an incarnation of Boar. Maybe this is happening. And more, right? It's kind of far out there. But then the more and more Krishna starts revealing himself, and we start to understand that, okay, these aren't just stories. These aren't just mundane movies. These are actually Krishna's pastimes, and they are really cool, and we can actually observe them if we keep moving forward. Yes, Dina. We have 4 minutes.
I was going to say that, like, at least for me, like, I grew up hearing these stories, but my mom used to read, like, Bhagavatam to me, or she used to read, like, Krishna book to me, but, like, it took me quite a while to realize that they weren't just, like, stories. You were asking me about like, the Amar Chitra Katha comics. Like, I used to read comic books, and, like, the comic books were, like, devotional sort of comic books, so, like, the characters in the comic books would be, like, Krishna, or the characters in the comic books would be the Pandavas or something, and they'd be portrayed as comic book superheroes. And so when I was a kid, like, I just think of them as characters. Oh my God, like, you know, Yudhisthira's my favorite character. Anyway, but yeah, but like I'd be like, oh, Yudhisthira's my favorite character. Like, he's so cool. And that's why I really liked the analogy you made with, like, the movie, because like, it almost feels like that. Like, even remember when I was explaining, like, the whole family tree, like how Krishna's related to, like, Arjuna, and like how Kunti's related to them, and she was like, wow, this is like lore, you know, like she was telling me, like, this is like kind of like I can like see the whole tree, and it's like when you're watching a movie, or when you're reading a book, and there's like backstory, and there's all of this, and it makes it easier for, like, newer people to understand when it seems like that. But like, after some time, obviously, you know, once you're familiar with the story and there's not that shock value of, like, oh my God, like, he's a boar, you know? Once that shock value is gone, then you're like, oh wow, this is like a really beautiful pastime, and there's a much deeper meaning to this. And then also you have to come to that realization, oh my God, like, that's like God, you know? So, but it took some time, especially because, like, I would read comic books like that.
You'd be what?
I was reading comic books that were like spiritual. So, it's like, I've said this to probably like a lot of you already, but like with Krishna book, I've read Krishna book so many times, but I've only actually like read Krishna book, like, and like absorbed the like knowledge that's there, or absorbed like actual realization and like spiritual realization, and not just read it as like, I don't know, story. It took time, I think. Yeah.
No, Tom.
Yeah, I was also thinking that one cannot develop divine qualities and love of God by meditating on Spider-Man or these made-up characters. But throughout history, people who have meditated on the names, pastimes of these incarnations have developed divine qualities, have become free from attachment, free from lust. So the proof is in the pudding that these characters or these incarnations are not ordinary, mundane, made-up, imaginary characters. They are eternal spiritual personalities, because when you actually focus on them, read about them, you naturally develop attachment, you naturally develop love, and you get free from material modes and so on. So you see those changes in your life, even if without faith or unknowingly you read about them. And
so one thing I was thinking about is that through hearing about Krishna and his pastimes and stuff, the change in the heart is happening whether we think it's mundane or not.
Yeah.
if you're hearing these, if we're watching movies, there's no lasting change in that. But by hearing Krishna's pastimes and his cool movies, we are becoming changed in the heart. That's such a good point, no, Tom. Did you have one more? Did you have another comment? Or no. Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking about the thing that you were saying, like about developing attachment. So, like if you develop attachment for Spider-Man, then like nothing really comes of it. But if you develop attachment to like a character in Bhagavatam, then like reading their story over and over again and being like emotionally invested in that character, that's like a form of like spiritual like activity, because you're reading these pastimes. And I was thinking, you know him, but I have a friend, Ricky, and like his name is Parikshit, but and he was telling like a non-devotee friend of mine, like all of us were hanging out, some of my friends who were devotees, some of my friends who weren't devotees. And he was telling a non-devotee friend of mine the story of like Karna, and my friend was like almost like he was so moved by the story, and he was so like emotionally invested in it, and he was like, wow, this is so incredible. And like he's getting some spiritual benefit just from hearing that, and to him it's just a story, but that's like Mahabharata, that's something more than that.
Yeah, so we'll finish here, but the point being is that you can see that in the person there's a natural desire to hear about cool stuff, to hear about action, to hear about drama, to hear about stories in a magnificent way. And so in Krishna consciousness, we don't deny this. We don't falsely reject that, stories are, we don't want to hear about stories. No, we do want to hear stories, but we want to hear stories about Krishna. And so Srimad Bhagavatam, through its great size, I think it's over there, will start to explain these pastimes in more and more details. And the more and more we'll get to understand these wonderful pastimes, the more we become attracted to Krishna. Okay, that's it. And thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Pramanande Hari Hari Bo. Hari Bo.